with how much stress like driving your kids around and like being constantly having to be at another thing, is that something you plan to mitigate in the future so it doesn't?
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be that way. I guess now that it's more out from some of the documents, our nanny left in the middle of the second half of the school year, and we had to scramble to try and fill a schedule that was made for two drivers, Lady Rackets and the nanny, most of the time, and occasionally three drivers at the same time. That was our schedule that these kids had because, again, I know we're super neglectful parents or whatever, but our kids were in just any activity that they wanted to do that we could fit in. So it involved just shitloads of driving to all different places with different kids throughout the day. And you had to have two or three drivers most days of the week. And you also had to be watching the other kids needed adult supervision. So sometimes that meant that even if you had two drivers going, if you have the younger two girls home, for example, they need to be supervised. And like, I couldn't stream for that time, but our nanny left in the middle of the school year, which was a huge blow, and having to replace her with help from friends didn't work out as smoothly because you go from a person that you pay to do this, who's been doing it for years, to not having that and having to kind of patchwork it in. It was extremely stressful, and you don't want to say it. I didn't want her information out there. I didn't want people looking for her in any way. She was a part of our family for a very long time. And so like having that all occur in the middle was jarring and kind of devastating for us, because it's like, how do we finish out this fucking school year? You can't just rearrange the schedule. It was made in the fall, and now it's spring, and you just have to get through the end of the school year because your people, like, you can't reschedule piano because they have a bunch of other students. You can't reschedule violin. You can't reschedule choir, drama, band. You can't reschedule these things. So you just have to make it work. And people are like, well, why don't you just whatever? It's like, dude, we live in a small town. There isn't just a bevy of nannies waiting around that you could just grab another one. Plus, we're extremely selective with who's around our kids. And so it was, that was I don't know. It was incomprehensibly stressful and frustrating because it crippled my ability to do things like trial streams and stuff, which I had been wanting to increase starting in February. And, we got the message from her that she was leaving in the middle of February, and it was like, holy fuck, how are we going to do this? And so you just make it work because you have to. But, the people online, you don't want to, again, there are limits to how much you want to let people online into your lives and how much that peak impacts people who have nothing to do with it, her included. And so it was like, all right, how do you do that? But yeah, that stress was fucking brutal, man. Like, and if you're like, oh, it's just driving your kids. Like, no. Many of you just drive your kids. The amount and the destinations and the time living out in the country, everything is 15 to 20 minutes away. Everything for every time. So if you have a kid with a 40-minute activity, it's 15 to 20 minutes of driving, 40 minutes of activity, and then 15 to 20 minutes of driving back. So when you have kids going to multiple different places, that's how they all go. And it's
is there any because I have not researched any of this. Is there any reason why the nanny left? I don't, because we've never talked about that. Like, you've never told me like why you had one.
It's really fuzzy. I'll say yes. Obviously, there's a reason that the nanny left, and we got one story from her, and I don't think that story was honest, right. Because I've seen some other information about it. And I don't want to put her on blast in any way. Like, it just happened. So it was sudden and kind of devastating for us, but hey, it is what it is. And you don't really get to like object to I object, you have to stay. No, I mean, like, someone quits their job, they quit their job. And refilling that role, I mean, it took us a long time to find this person in the first place. So,
right.